everybody has them at the moment. Yep. Okay, so it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to open up the meeting. First thing on the agenda is any adjustments to the agenda. And I'd like to, at the end of the meeting, give an update to the Coleman Parker appeal for the top of the Old Quarry Road. Just let folks know what's going on with that. Is there any public comment at all? Anybody have anything you want to say? Can you make it brief?
I can try.
Okay.
I'm just wondering where we are as a result of the last select board meeting on.
As far as I know, did you submit a written letter? Okay, that needs to happen first.
Okay, but that wasn't told me.
I left that as a phone message to you.
Right, but I'm saying at the last select board meeting, it was said that they would be sending out a letter.
Yes, first they need a written complaint.
But that wasn't told me.
I told you that in a phone message, Mike,
Right,
the next day.
not at the select board meeting. And I guess what I'm saying is, it would appear that the selectmen know what the issue is. And I guess I don't understand why they have to be told to enforce the regulations they have on the books already. I don't understand why you need a letter to do that, if you're aware of what the
We
situation
need
is.
a written complaint in order to act upon the complaint. It needs to be written in writing, and the person who's making the complaint needs to sign it. That's part of the process.
And I can find that where in the town.
It's not in the zoning ordinance, but if we were to ever have to go to court over that, if we didn't have a written complaint signed by the complainant, then the court would just throw it out. So that's the procedure if it needs to go before the Judicial Bureau, which it probably and possibly could. All right, so that's the process. And if you aren't willing to follow that process, then the town isn't going to do anything.
So when you enact that policy, shouldn't it be in part of the protocol for if somebody wishes to see the ordinances enforced? Shouldn't
It should be, but that zoning ordinance is really outdated and needs a lot of work. So, and when it does get revised, it will have that in it. But in order to, that's kind of standard procedure. It's not in the zoning ordinance. But that's what we need to do in order to proceed.
And this is what the whole select board is ruled? Or is this something that...
This is what's written by state statute in case this ever went before the Washington County Superior Court, which it very likely could.
So correct me if I'm wrong, I am trying to keep it brief. I know you got more fish in to go after, but if the select board knows there's a violation on zoning regulations, they can't do a thing about it until somebody actually steps forward and writes a letter. That makes no sense.
Well, then, if we were to act on every violation in Woodbury, we'd probably have a dozen cases going on, and we'd have a whole lot of people mad at us. So I think, the town just kind of lets it go until somebody complains. I mean, there's probably a number of people in this room that could be eligible for that, that zoning ordinance about 3 junk cars. So the town historically has not acted on something until there's a complaint.
So somebody can have 6, 8, 10 junk cars, and unless somebody files a complaint, we aren't going to do a thing about it.
That's right.
Okay, I just want that matter of record.
That's the way things have been done.
I mean, that...
So it's easy enough for Mike just to write, I want you to investigate this place because...
Yeah, that's all you have to do.
This piece of paper?
We need something written in order to, if it ever goes before the Judicial Bureau, that otherwise they would just throw it out immediately. That would be it.
You can write it down pretty easy, then we can move forward.
But it would be nice if it was a little more official than a note on a piece of paper.
Michael?
Yes.
Wasn't that legal advice that you got from somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just so he knows, you didn't make it up.
Oh, but why wasn't I told that last meeting?
I didn't think of it.
Maybe the advice didn't come until after the meeting. I don't know.
I did tell you the very next day on a phone message, first thing in the morning. Anything else, Michael? Or any other public comment? Okay, let's move on. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the bills to the town.
A second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the July 13th, 2020 Select Board meeting.
A second?
And they're right here to sign, Brian, if you want. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So I'd like to welcome Kathleen Gent from the Central Vermont Solid Waste District. She's here to tell us a little bit about some plans that the Solid Waste District has. I have kind of a printout of what she's going to be going over tonight if anybody would like a copy. I have 3 copies in my hand. Would anybody like a copy? It's fine. Okay. So Kathleen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the meeting tonight. I wanted to also introduce Jane Lorendo, who is our representative from the town of Woodbury to our board of supervisors. And we really appreciate Jane being on our board. It's really great to have her. We have for years now been interested in getting a district household hazardous waste facility. And earlier this year, we received a grant of $500,000 from the state of Vermont, and our board of supervisors has allocated $594,000 from our reserve funds for the purpose of getting a household hazardous waste facility in place. The goal is to have a year-round drop-off location so that people can bring their materials, hazardous waste materials, throughout the year, not just when we have seasonal events, which we still will have some seasonal events even when we get the facility in place. We know from surveys and from hearing people over the years that having an HHW facility is really one of the top priorities for the district. And with Vermont's Universal Recycling Law, Act 148, there are certain ways in which we meet requirements of the state by having that facility. The fact that the state made a grant of $500,000 for this facility shows how important they think it is to have in central Vermont. It will keep materials out of the landfill, which is a key priority for everyone. So we expect that we might have some more need for funding. We're looking for grants, and we're optimistic that we will have all the funds in place that we need for this to move forward. We're looking at a location in the Barre, Montpelier, Berlin, maybe East Montpelier part of the district. That's where the bulk of businesses and our population are located. And we look for this to open in the spring of 2022. So basically we have a 2-year horizon for the project. We are right now focused on finding the right property. And we do not have one in place at this point. And we look tonight and other times for any feedback that you might have for us for this particular initiative. That's why I'm here tonight, and we'll continue to meet with you and work with Jane to get your comments. So I don't know if you have anything you want to share about our new household hazardous waste facility that we're working on.
So would this take the place of, I know periodically there's a hazardous waste day in Hardwick where, you know, people can bring stuff. Would that take the place of this, or would you continue to do that, or?
We will continue to do that, yes. Right now, we have 5 seasonal collection events. We plan to continue holding the one that we do in Hardwick. We also do one in Bradford and one in Tunbridge. We will probably discontinue the events that we have in Montpelier and Barry, if the facility is located in that. Yeah, so that's a good question. I did list there the dates for the 3 remaining events this year, just so you have that. Barry Town, we have August 1st. Bradford will be having an HHW event on August 15th, and in Montpelier on September 26th. We've already had 2. We do have COVID-19 precautions in place, but the events are going really smoothly. Speaking of COVID-19, like all municipalities, the solid waste district closed our offices, closed our facilities for a matter of weeks in March and April. And we slowly began reopening our art facility, which is where we accept hard to recycle materials in Berry City. That is fully reopened. We also take paint, electronics, batteries, light bulbs, plus a couple dozen other things there. So that's up and running. Our office is open by appointment. Very generally our staff there, and if someone needs to visit us at our office, they can do that. We did have to discontinue taking some materials at the ARC because of COVID-19. And markets, recycling markets have really been fluctuating. There are some materials where we no longer can find markets to bring our materials, so we haven't been able to keep those going at this point at least. We are doing curbside sales of compost equipment in our Berry facility. We're doing those weekly or bi-weekly. And those are very popular. People can sign up on our website, which is cvswmd.org. I will say that we have now run out of some of our equipment, and we are in the process of trying to restock those items, but there is definitely a delay for some of the items that we carry. We do have a series of webinars. We no longer, at least for now, are doing in-person workshops, but we have a full slate of webinars that people can get on our website. And our school staff, our staff that support local elementary and high schools, have put a lot of their materials in electronic format, trying to continue to help support the schools. And all those are also listed on our website. Part of the reason why our composting equipment has been so popular is because on July 1st, the state regulation that prohibits food scraps from landfills went into effect. So people are starting to compost more or find places where they can bring their food scraps so that they can be in compliance with the law. There have been a lot of questions. People have been in touch with our district and the state because it is a new requirement, new activity, and people have questions about how to do that. So again, people can contact us or look at our website to learn more about that. There was another state law that also went into effect on July 1st, which is restricting the types of single-use products that can be used, especially plastic products. When you go to get takeout, you won't in general be getting your your goodies in a plastic bag when you go to the grocery store, they're not using plastic bags, that sort of thing. And that we know is going to take time for people and businesses to get up to speed on that. And the final item that I wanted to cover was just that our fiscal year, probably just like your fiscal year began on July 1st, and our budget, we are about 1.1 million, which is a little lower than last year. We're really trying to be careful because we don't know what might happen with COVID-19. We're just trying to be careful. And our board did reduce the amount that each municipality, including Woodbury, paid to our district. We have a per capita assessment. For each person, we get a certain fee every year. So that has gone from $1 to 50 cents for this year. And I think we've already received payment from Woodbury. Thank you very much. And this is for this year only, but we're hopeful that is helping towns meet your financial obligations at this time as well.
Kathleen, do you get any assistance from the state budget for the programs and the work that the solid waste district does?
We do get some grant funds. For instance, for our household hazardous waste program. They don't cover the full costs, but there are some state programs in place where they receive income and they pass some of that along in the form of grants. We also get an Agency of Agriculture grant specifically for pesticides that are brought to household hazardous waste events and that will be brought to our facility. So those types of grants are in effect. We don't get any direct payment from the state.
I know a lot of different places that do get funding from the state or different organizations that sort of are quasi-state organizations are kind of anticipating a reduction in allotments that they might get from the state. So I was just wondering if that was something that the solid waste district.
Some officials have asked me whether our grant from the state for our HHW facility is secure, and it is. We have an agreement, and those funds are being held for that project. Jane, do you have anything?
Yeah, tell them a little bit about the school program. I think that's really neat, the things that we do.
So we have the school program. Basically, we work with every public school in our district and primarily classroom lessons. Our staff come into the classes and help all grades of students learn about recycling, learn about food scraps, composting, and things that they can take and work with their families to do at home as well. They do waste audits so students understand what are some of the ways that the school can improve what they're doing in terms of recycling their food scrap, saving into compost. We also have grants that we make available to schools to help get equipment or services or pay for a cafeteria monitor and make sure that the food scraps are being handled properly. So those are some examples of what we do. Is there something in
Woodbury
Woodbury?
got composting years ago.
Right. Woodbury got funding to do a compost system at the school. That was several years ago, right? Do you have a question?
Yes, Kathleen, I'm Diana Peduzzi, the town clerk. As far as compost goes, I read something that All Meadows was charging $1 for a gallon of compost. That seems outrageous, especially since we've got Black Dirt Farm not very far away and taking it, you know, they want it. Is there any effort to set up some compost collections around, like the one they used to have in Hardwick?
Good question. So,
Hardwick is in this district, right? Okay.
so when the state enacted the law, Act 148, they did not specify limits on what an organization could charge for food scraps. So, whether it's a transfer station, a hauler that does fast trash along the roads, they can set their own fees. So that is a matter of what the law does allow. So you're going to find variation. In terms of the district, we had a pilot project up in Hardwick for that, and the town has been considering applying for a grant so that they could start it up again, but we haven't heard anything. Or Black Dirt Farm could also do something in Hardwick as well. But every place can charge a different amount. We collect food scraps at the park, and we have a different fee. But if you have a gallon, we would charge you $1.
Really?
If you had up to 5 gallons, we would charge you $1. But so it really varies. So it's certainly not out of the realm of what you might find other places. In fact, you might find some more expensive than that.
Do you know, are people complying with this? I mean, it seems like it could become a real nightmare for people if their hauler isn't willing to deal with it, or, you know, if people do have someone come and...
And that has certainly been happening in some parts of the state, because haulers are not required to pick up food scraps for their residential customers. So they pick up your trash at your house, they pick up your recycling at your house, but they are not required to pick up food scraps for residential. So right there, that can be a challenge. And that's part of why people are so interested in backyard composting, especially in an area like this. But there are some other ways to do it. But I think people want to understand, in general, want to comply, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to do it. There are, since the law went into place, there are some new haulers that are emerging. And so we think that fairly quickly, you know, certainly within the next year, people will have new options. So it's going to take time.
That was a pandemic doesn't help people trying to start a business that way either, I would imagine. Yeah.
Right. But there have been more haulers applying for their state license, and then, of course, they apply to the districts as well. There have been more than our state colleagues expected there would be, so it's good news that way. So it's just going to take time. I think the state understands that in terms of enforcement. Really, it's based on trying to educate people rather than come down hard with the hammer right now.
Anybody else have any questions for Kathleen?
Seriously?
Could you give it to Diana, please?
I'm sure it meets your requirements, because it wasn't Diana that told me how to do it.
Hang on.
Yeah, looks good.
All right, well, thank you very much for having us come, and I'd like to come back and to give you an update about the facility, household hazardous waste facility, and other things that we're up to.
Do you have some prospective sites? I mean, you mentioned different towns, but not really anything.
We've issued a request for proposals
Aha.
that right now we're waiting to see if developers bring any ideas to us about locations, and we have looked at a couple of properties, but we don't have anything close to being strongly considered. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, let's see, where did my agenda go? Here it is. So, town highway report.
Well, we've been working away. We've been up on East Hill, done a bunch of ditching, home East Hill, home South Pond Road, County Road, Buck Lake Road, changed some culverts, fixed the one on the North Road. We were in the middle of that last meeting. That's done. Fixed the water problem on Flat Street.
You did fix it, great.
Yeah, that's got done. Fixed the road by your house.
Where it's been washing out in the dirt.
Yeah, we dug down, put 2 blocks in there, put the gravel back on it. In fact, we were gonna put a couple of gravel in there today to bring that low spot up, but the way it rained this morning, we decided against it. But this week, we'll get in there and get that done. Last Monday morning, we had, a week ago today, we had part of the tree down to the town office blow down, so we had to move that, put a block in that driveway you wanted blocked off. And talked to Greg about it this morning, and one day this week we'll get down there and ditch it, put stone in it. I think we gotta put a culvert for an access into that field. There always is an access off to the side of that driveway.
That's right, yeah.
And I think we've got to put a new culvert in, a 12-inch culvert in there to maintain that access for, I'm not even sure who owns it, if it's David Zahn or if it's Grady.
Grady used to mow it.
Grady always used to mow it, but I think it belongs to David Zahn.
Yeah.
And since they've been working on that little barn up on top, there is no access up there anymore. So, Greg and I talked about it, felt we should put a culvert in there, so I guess it's up to you guys, but.
Yeah, we feel like it needs to be done.
Okay.
Good.
That'll happen sometime this week. I'm not exactly sure when. The 550's at the Bears, Dora's car shop out there. They done the inspection of it today, but they didn't have time to work up a quote. Need the left front wheel bearing. And I don't remember if he said the ball joint was on the same side or not, but it needs a lower ball joint on one side or the other. It's got a rocker panel that needs to be fixed. And there's some codes with the engine light on. So I'm not exactly sure what it cost. And of course, we know the dump body is junk.
Yeah.
That needs to come off. So we're gonna have to do something for body. So I'm thinking
Get us some numbers.
I will have in the next day or two. I don't have any tonight.
So you're gonna bring it back in the meantime?
Truck?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go get it in the morning.
Okay, stop by and I'll look at the rock frame, I'll see what that'll take to fix.
All right.
And give them an estimate.
It said it was just a short spot, so it didn't sound like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But they said the frame and the cross members and stuff are in pretty good shape, and if we got the wheel bearing changed and a body on it and stuff, there's probably 2 or 3 years in it. So, but I'll have everything in writing in the next day or two.
Yeah, kind of an estimate on what it'll.
Yeah, I'll get it to you guys.
Yeah, that's a call, let's see.
Well, I was hoping to have a price tonight, but
Yeah.
they got busy, the guys needed it last week, and it just didn't work.
Well, as long as we have a price by the next select board meeting, then we can discuss it and make a decision then.
Well, I'd like to get you all a copy of the price, so you can all be thinking about it, so.
Before the meeting.
Yeah, because if you decide you don't think you want to save that one, then we really should start looking into something else right off.
Yeah.
And that's about it on that. I called on that mower for the loader. They'll let us have it for the same price they said last year.
That's 46
$40,618,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe what we could do is look in, check with the bank and, I guess, you know, again, we won't make a decision on it until the next select board meeting so we can warn it, but what we could do is check in with the bank, and see if we wanted to finance it, you know, with a loan, or whether we want to, just take money out of the HERF fund and buy it outright. Got to get a sense of which way to go. I mean, I'm thinking, we had talked before, when we were talking about this more, a year or two ago, is that if we could purchase it and then do a bank loan with our local bank, that would be approximately the same amount that we pay every year for renting a tractor to do the mowing.
Yeah,
Then, you know, maybe we could just go
Finance
go
it
that
for-
way
yeah.
and
But it didn't work out that way, right, Randy?
What's that?
That it wasn't gonna pay for itself out of the
well,
$5,000 or
except
$6,000.
we added 2 other pieces of equipment to it. It just, you know, the thing got more and more complicated. And if it wouldn't work out, then we'll probably, well, I don't know, we could either just buy it outright, or we could use some money from the HERF and pay for half of it, and,
yeah.
you know, we'll have to figure that out, what way we want to go, but,
You feel,
In the long term of things, within 5 years, you know, what it would cost you for the next 5 years to rent that tractor, and definitely pay for it, and you'll get a lot more chopping done than you're gonna now.
that was the whole reasoning before,
Right.
that it would be around and available any time of the year, and, and in the long run, you know, saving money from, you know, the rental is just, you pay it and it's gone.
Yeah.
So, and it comes out to roughly $4,500 a year. You know, one year we rent the mower for a week, the next year we rent it for 2 weeks. So, and it, you know, it used to be $3,000 and $6,000. It creeps up every year. You know, I can't remember, I think, was it $6,200 this year? 66. So, yeah, so, you know, it's, and last year I think it was $3,200 for the.
Yeah. and we talked about trying to buy it in with Callus at one point.
I think they were going to be buying their own
They're gonna
tractor
buy
and
their own
mower. I
tractor.
don't know if they did that or not.
Yeah.
They were going to decide that at town meeting, I think, last spring.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, so, I mean, we have a figure now, so I could come up with, I could talk to the person at the bank and just, you know, 5-7 year loan and see what.
Never could decide this at the next meeting then?
Yeah, we won't
just.
decide tonight,
Yeah.
because it wasn't warned. So it'll be warned. We'll have some figures and some scenarios to discuss, and, you know, we could make a decision at the next meeting if everybody feels okay with doing that. So.
Yeah.
And Paul will be here too, so we'll have a full select board, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys consider it seriously, because it will be a good deal for the town.
Right, I was all set to do it before, so you don't have to convince me, but,
Okay.
you did change your mind.
Just, yeah, we just gotta get there, so yeah. I don't have a problem with it all either now.
Yep.
Yeah, we look at it as a good buy,
Okay.
long-term buy too.
Yeah, does that sound like if we could basically finance it with what we would be paying in a yearly rental fee? That seems like the
Yep,
way to go to me, but, and if, you know, if we,
this guy's not gonna change our budget any for 5 years or whatever
Right.
it takes.
Yeah.
and-
yeah,
Yeah,
and if we can
Doesn't
keep,
the LCT usually offer a piece of equipment grant?
usually they do offer it, and it's kind of it's a grant application, and so it's a hit or miss whether or not you would be awarded the grant, and they tend to favor grants like that where there is one or more municipalities kind of going in on a piece of equipment. So if we were to do it on our own,
I think you really should consider doing it on your own.
yeah, well, that was Greg Parker's thinking, that, you know, to just, rather
then it's
than.
yours when you need it.
Not only that, and then come back broke and not knowing
Right.
until you gotta go use it, and all of a sudden you got, put $2,000-3,000 into it before you can use it.
Yeah,
So you're down all the time you could have been using it, plus fixing somebody else's
yeah.
Yeah, and then, or getting into a battle with the other town about who's gonna pay for it.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, that was Greg's almost exact words.
Is that right?
So.
Do you want to okay it tonight, Mike?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't warned,
Okay.
and it is a, you know, it is a
Sizable, yeah.
sizable expense.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting and,
You
Diana?
also have to consider the fact that the bank might not lend money for 5 years, because usually select boards turn over and they don't like to make long term. Anyways, that's just another thing. you
Well,
have to
they've
look
never
into.
expressed that before. I'm
Really?
talking about the Union Bank that we tend to work with, and
yeah, we never had any trouble.
we did have a
Good,
scenario worked out for actually a number of pieces of equipment with the bank for 5, and it was kind of looking at a 5 or 7 year loan. I think, if I remember right, with a 7-year loan, the bank, especially depending on how much the loan is for, they want to have town approval, probably for that very reason.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and I think that was more the longer loans where it would stretch out over time. So I can look at, I mean, if there is restrictions or requirements like that, we'll know about it next time.
Cool.
Okay? All right, so let me note to self.
Other than that, for the town roads, we're gonna do a fair amount of resurfacing here the next couple of weeks. Charity Hill, some of the Lakes, Cranberry Meadow.
And what do you mean by resurfacing? Just for the public, just grading and maybe putting some gravel down? and stuff?
Laying some gravel down and,
Yeah.
well, grading it first and then laying some gravel down, shaping it up,
Okay.
putting chloride to it, get it packed in so that you got a good surface. Hopefully it'll slow the mud up next spring.
That been a problem area?
With that,
Is that a problem area for mud?
Charity Hill? No, but they dug so much in it, and put all the new culverts in, that definitely needs to be done. Cranberry Meadow is a mud problem. But the other side of it, just before you get up the end of the road, there's a problem up there where there's a lot of mud.
Yeah.
That intersection by Gary Eland
Yeah.
is another one. We're gonna put some in by your house to take that dip out of the road. East Hill's getting some. I got a list of them, but
I saw one that said Sand Ledge Road or something.
Yeah, that's a part of the, that's why Jim and Randy are here, and that's why the ice is called.
Okay.
You want to talk about that now?
sure.
Diana?
Before you move off the town highway report,
Yeah.
I just want to make a comment. Last meeting, you sort of arbitrarily did away with comp time. There didn't seem to be anybody representing the road crew during that discussion, and it seemed to me like you were just taking away a benefit from, that doesn't really cost the town anything, because it's the same amount that a person would get if they were doing, getting paid for overtime.
Right.
And it says in here, an employee who has accrued comp time and requested use of comp time will be permitted to use such time off within a reasonable period after making the request, if such use does not unduly disrupt the town's operations. Requests for use of comp time must be submitted to the employee's supervisor, who will have sole discretion to grant or deny the request. Requests for use of comp time will not unreasonably be withheld. And I just think these guys, they work nights, weekends, holidays, whatever's required in the winter, and they're very dedicated, and for them to try to accrue some time and use it for an extra vacation, I think is not asking too much. I don't know if they care, but I just don't think that anybody, I'm not sure anybody asked them whether they care. And another reason is, after 1 year, a full-time employee gets 1 week. After 3 years, they get 2 weeks. And then they have to wait until after 7 years to get another 3rd week, which is, I always thought it was kind of scanty. But anyways, I just think they should have been consulted before you took away that benefit. Just my opinion.
Yeah, we didn't consult with them. I think what we were concerned about, and this is my memory of the last meeting, is that the way the comp time was used this year and in more recent past years is that a person realizes, towards the end of the fiscal year that they had requested comp time and haven't used it, and it just creates, and then, you find out a day or two ahead of time that they would like to use up their comp time. So it just makes it hard for the work planning schedules.
Well, there's better ways to deal with it than just taking it away,
Right,
in my opinion.
yeah, okay. Well, we did,
Thank you.
we did decide to take it away, and to
I
just,
don't know if it's Chuck's job to support the team or just supervise the team, or
well, he's
they
kind
don't
of,
have a,
he's kind of stuck in the middle. Yeah.
I try to support the guys over there, but I also try to support the select board and what they think is best for the town.
Yeah. And, we could ask, we could ask Chuck to talk to them about that and see how they
We
feel.
talked about it the next morning.
Okay,
They grumbled a little bit, and that was it.
but that was it? Okay, yeah. Okay. Because, it's, the personnel policy is it's still a draft. We did choose to do that, to make that change in the personnel policy, but it's not official yet. But if there wasn't a whole lot of objection, I would be inclined to go with what we had decided at our last meeting. And, so shall we move on to Sand Ledge Road, or? So, Randy and Jim are here to talk about widening the road to their house. And I know the Ides just called in at the beginning of the meeting. I assume that they might be watching the meeting on HCTV. So could you just kind of restate your proposal for what would happen up there?
So I have spoken with, there is a corner piece that belongs to Myers that's between Cabot Road and the Sand Ledge Hattie Bell Road. So as soon as you get onto heading up Cabot Road and you turn on Pickett's Corner to go up our Class 4 road, there's a corner section that's right in between Cabot Road and the Class 4 that is Myers. And in order to open, for plowing reasons, for making that corner, I spoke with Andrew Myers, and he is willing to work with us to widen that, so when we snow blow up through there, down there, that we're not bouncing off boulders, or we have places to put the snow. And he said, just tell the select board that I'm willing to work with you, however, to get to, so he's gonna do a site visit with me.
That road, want to widen out pretty much all the way up that Class 4 road to where it hits Sand Ledge Road.
So other than that corner piece of Myers, we own both sides going up to the intersection. So what we're doing now is cutting the trees and making it so it's bare for boulders and stumps and trees in front of the stone walls. That way we have room to plow, to snow blow, and we're not, because right now you try and get a trailer up there and it's bouncing off the rocks.
So that is a Class 4 road through there.
It's Class 4.
So you're just asking permission to cut the trees to clear out so it's wider?
No, because that's on our permission, that's on our land, but it's town right away. And I'm working with Myers as far as their piece.
I think from our perspective, I don't have any problem with clearing it out to make the road wider.
No, I don't either. No.
You know, so if you needed that end of it, it's fine.
We're going to want that big excavator to move boulders, because some of the boulders are
Bake?
Yeah.
That's gotta be a big issue. And we were gonna split it between us and his father was gonna run it for us,
Yeah.
at no charge.
And I assume, you know, they did call it, I assume that they're in favor and would like to kind of do the same up to their, yeah, so everybody's in agreement. Yeah.
And they moved in permanently, and
Yeah.
our closing is creeping up in August, at the end of
Yeah.
August, so, to get this ready for winter.
And the only thing we were hoping for was some fill. Even if we paid for it.
So, between I and us paying for the fill, and then seeing if the town, and this is just it, is I know they're out straight and as far as trying to find time to dump the material if we pay for the material.
Do you have a sense of how many truckloads you might need?
And you want good crusher run, or are you just looking for fill, or?
It's gonna have to be, I'm assuming slate, it's gonna have to be gravel.
I will put 3-inch lines in it. Make self-made.
Because whatever they dumped last year, actually is amazingly held up.
Yeah.
On the worst part of the.
I rode up in there Saturday afternoon and looked at it, it's actually pretty good shape.
That ledge, I can't believe that held up. Of
Yeah.
course, I did a cold before.
Right.
So, yeah, that was the other thing is.
Probably, I'm gonna guess.
Between the four of us, we talked about 7 or 8 loads, but I don't know how big, depending on the truck also, as far as.
Well, it depends on how well you get it fixed, depending on when you
Right.
put a 10-wheeler up in there.
Right.
So our plan is to.
The road we want almost 20 feet wide.
Right. Yeah, and it's fairly flat, and it's fairly 10-wheeler, no problem. I would guess it would take between 6 and 10 loads to go from a quarter down. Greg and I talked about it, I don't know how the town feels, the select board feels about it, but you're gonna have to extend that culvert down on Cabot Road. And Greg and I talked about it and decided that that should be something that the town takes care of.
Right, no time, but Greg did that just a couple of years ago, they put a new culvert in there.
Yeah,
Yeah. It needs to be,
that corner off, you know, that-
to be extended, yeah, okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
So maybe we should go up and take a look at it and
We
see what they're
could.
planning on
I mean,
doing.
I would
Make-
trust Chuck's judgment too on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
It's pretty straightforward, you know, what Jim and Randy are saying is pretty straightforward. Once they get the big boulders and stuff up over the stone walls and stuff and get it leveled down, it's gonna be in pretty good shape. I mean, granted, I bet you're gonna have ledge all the way down through there.
Oh, yeah, we know that.
You're gonna have a pretty good base anyway.
You know how that is.
Yeah.
But that road's held up amazingly.
It has, I was amazed Saturday when I drove up in there, how well it was.
Yeah. And the base, it doesn't wash out.
Yeah. No, it won't.
I know Gary, he said when he used to, they used to take care of it. That's why it's held up probably. That's him.
Probably the eyes.
hello. Good. So the way we would work the phone here is if you have a question or a comment, if you could say it to me, then I will repeat it to the best of my ability so that it can be recorded and so that the other people here at the meeting can hear it. Good. Okay. 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 So this is Mr. Ide. He's pretty much in agreement with what you have shared with us tonight, and you know would also like the road widened, you know, through Brandy and Jim's property, and also up to his property, I guess, also a little bit on his property. So, anything else at all, or did I? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. So he's also just agreeing with the widening of the road, the entryway from the Cabot Road to the, you know, it's extremely, he feels it's extremely dangerous and actually very hard to turn onto the road, so, yeah.
So in the winter time, so if we can snow plow, which as long as there's no issue with the town, when you come out, like the skirting to Cabot Road, if we can push it back into Pickett's Corner or blow it into Pickett's Corner so we don't, because it tends to build up pretty quick right there.
Just going back. Well, when you take that corner off to make that, you should dig back into that bank and make a wider corner.
That's what we want.
That would help a lot.
That's what we need.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with it. If we need to put some ditching material down below the corner so you can spot, put snow, I mean, we'll be out there doing some ditching, we can,
There's still some there too.
is that,
And we'll be putting barrels up along the sides of the road with sand.
So my understanding is that basically that you and the Ides would finance the work of, you know, removing the boulders and cutting down the trees and all, and the only thing that you're requesting from the town are some loads of gravel that you would pay for. So the town's expense would basically be paying the road crew to haul that gravel up to your road when you need it. Yeah, probably be 8 or 10 loads would probably be a day's work.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay, so
You good with that?
yeah, you're good with that. I'm good with that also. So we could make an official motion if you'd like, or we could, the fact that we both are
Agree to
okay
it.
with it, that should be good enough. It's recorded, so, and then, you know, just work with Chuck like you already are, and I'm assured that you would anyway, and so that it's done right, and we'll be good. Yeah.
Yep, we can help that down with the road, no problem.
That's good. Any other comments that you would like to make? You all set? Okay, sure. Yeah. So I think we're good. Okay. Shall
Something
we
you're
move-
gonna put in this fall or this summer, or doing the road? Already started, yeah. Good.
Okay. So shall we move on to the town treasurer's report? Okay. Do you have anything else, Chuck? No. Okay. So those papers are right there. Oh, I forgot to say goodbye. I just leave them out.
Thank you.
Randy, I have just a question before you begin. Would you be able to provide this same, the financial sheets for the fiscal year? Because this is already a month into the new fiscal year. I'd love to be able to see what things went over budget, what went under budget, you know, for the fiscal year that we just completed at some point.
Go to page,
Oh, okay, it probably has it already in here for,
let's say, page 7.
yeah, okay.
So for the general fund, we still had left over 34,000 for the general fund. As far as the highway, we had highway was negative $527.95.
Wow.
Close enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't guess much better than that.
Okay, that's good.
Good to know.
So, as you saw, so in that stack, there's ones from July 1st, or actually, not in that stack. So, when I was out, Tom had done payroll and AP. And, so I've done a little research as far as, in statute it says, you know, your fiscal year starts July 1. Tax money isn't collected until our due date, which is usually the last Thursday of October, is around that area that I said it. And the first thing that comes that has to be paid is the school before any appropriations. So by cutting that rounding up, $67,000 for the fire department, it puts us in a predicament where I'm gonna have to borrow. So next year, I will not be cutting any checks for appropriations until after the school has been paid, 20 days after our due date, and then I will pay our appropriations.
Okay.
It puts us in a bind as far as the town. That's what I need to worry about.
Okay.
So
And
it
the-
would have been better if I was able to say this in front of, yeah.
And
But
the fire department has never really been able to kind of renegotiate when they get their money, you know, after tax time. I know that we talked about that a little bit in select board meetings.
it just crushes us when it's the truck fund, it's the operations, and it's the 30,000. That's a lot of money at once.
Yeah, and a time when we
When
don't.
I'm only working with 34,000 until October, and I have 15,000 right now for prepaid taxes, which, you
Right.
know, I'm working off the other funds right now. And that's what I have to do, that's why I have to borrow. But it may come down to borrowing
Yeah.
if we have higher expenses out. So in the last 2 weeks, or since the 14th, the library ended up getting a grant for $5,000 to help for this COVID, which was great for last year.
No pie breakfast either to help
Right.
Right.
funding.
We received the fire department insurance, income from copies, land copies, recording, marriage license, vault fees, totaling $8,470.20. That was out of cash receipts. 2 meetings ago, you had asked what we spent on sheriff patrol.
Yeah.
So that was $4,602.07 for last fiscal year. So we received money for Cabot Road. We received, this is all income
Yeah.
that was state transfers or Swenson. So Swenson's fourth quarter was $10,516.90. We received $18,025.70. That was a portion from Cabot Road.
Okay, a portion of it. Yeah.
Already we're getting tax, it's income to the town, it's from the state, and it has to do with per parcels. So it's not, typically when we get money from the state, it offsets and it's due to the schools. So this is, and I don't have my, it's abbreviated for GTA disbursement, and it's a,
Do you know what GCA is?
oh, that was just what I know.
Okay. I don't either.
I have it in my notes back to back.
Okay, that's okay.
That was in $10,258 that we received. I have done no transfers since the 14th. So we've been going off from that income that we took in. I think that was it. There's also been no deposits of delinquencies since then. If you look on your balance sheet, we are down to $76,899.69 for delinquencies. And it is what it is. That'd be great to have it in our pocket, but it's not.
Was there an explanation for the partial payment from V-Trans for the work on Cabot Road?
No, and it's not for this amount. I printed out what you had emailed me.
Yeah.
And it was under that amount. It was filed for, let's see here, for the $4,984, the deposit was that.
Yeah, the reason, that's for the town highway inventory, and the reason that is less than what we were awarded is that I never put in as much time for the town match, so I put in for the time that I did do, so what they did was the anticipated amount of town match, they deducted that from what the original amount was. Yeah, so it was less. And have we received any money for the work on the Cabot Road washout with the Buck Lake Brook? No, okay, all right.
So there was, I did just receive in the mail from the state, they're auditing 5 grants going back. So that's going to take me a bit to,
Okay, because
so I have to do the audits on those.
that Shauna Clifford, told me that money was already allocated, so it wouldn't be affected by the
Fiscal year.
and the state revenue, the decline in state revenue with the pandemic. And I submitted that in the first week of June, so I can ask her. She has to, of course, submit it to the, the head V-Trans office, so.
They'll hang on to it as long as they can.
Right.
Yeah.
But usually, they've always been pretty prompt, and that's like $25,000 that
Coming
the
to
town
us,
will
yeah.
get, that we've already spent. Well,
Yeah.
the 20,000 that we've spent, plus road crew time and culverts and stuff. So that would be a nice amount to receive. Yes, Mike?
Question on Washington County, I'm assuming this is Sheriff's Department hired.
Yeah.
Did the town receive any money from the ticket center for fines that were issued to
Oh, yeah.
offset some of that?
Let's see. Look at all the questions, Michael. Income, 4. Traffic fines was not so much. $1,201.37.
Yeah.
Just like 25% of the,
Yeah.
That's a whole year.
And usually it's a little more than that, but we get a percentage of the fines. We don't get the whole fine, I don't think, but.
We haven't seen those guys hanging around much in a while.
Yeah, they've been
Oh, yeah.
spending time up in West Woodbury.
Yeah, the total cruiser up there last Saturday night,
Yeah.
chasing dirt bike.
Yeah, and that was, that's from a request from a number of residents up in West Woodbury to try to get a handle on dirt bike and ATV traffic along the road. There are at least 4 different property owners that call and complain about that, so the sheriff's department has been sitting up there a bit trying to trying to cut down on some of the traffic on the Class 3 part of the road. Yeah, so. But yeah, I'm sure that they chase and then they get away, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Harry Gilley was telling me that, from what he was saying, that never should have happened, but
Mhm.
did, that's the way it goes.
Yep, yep. Anything else from the,
I don't think so.
Okay.
I've been pushing to set up direct deposit, and that was 3 out of the 5 people
uh-huh,
made the cutoff today for that, and that
Mhm.
was a different, it didn't go as planned. So there's some technical difficulty between Nimerick and the bank talking.
mhm,
So I had to bounce around a little bit with that today. So anybody who does get direct deposit, instead of getting paid on Monday now, when I do payroll, it has to be done by Monday before 1:30, and I have to email the bank, I have to log on to the bank, I have to do all these steps, and then it's the next day, so it'll be Tuesday, that they'll actually get it in their account, unless you're with Union Bank, and then you're the lucky one, you get it that day.
yeah,
But, so the tester was today, and I tried out 3 people, and we'll see if it gets put in by
tomorrow.
Yeah.
I know, while we're talking about that, you know, I, as a town highway administrative assistant, you know, kind of have been getting paid for 3 hours a week. And I'm really not doing that anymore now that Chuck is the road commissioner. So I'm just not going to file that. The only time that I would really, you know, there are times where I'm dealing with a state agency or something over a road crew. So what I might do instead is just track my time, if, you know, and...
Yep.
As long as you submit it within the fiscal year, I'm all good.
Okay, all right. Well, I would try to still track my time monthly, and,
Yeah.
but I think that would be better, but I feel sort of guilty now that I mean,
So
it's,
if you would like direct deposit, then I can
Okay.
set it up for any of the employees.
All right,
that-
okay.
If you want.
all right. So I'll just keep a log, kind of like Ron does when he's doing his work. And,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just like listers, just
Yeah.
like auditors.
Yeah.
They tally there. So
Mhm.
I wrote to Skip Lindsay today to see if we can, there's a time we can meet with the road crew to get this time sheet
Right, but,
nailed down so that so we can have you know, what roads we worked on, clear as a bell within an Excel spreadsheet. Logging in, checking out, and just 5 minutes of telling me what you did today.
mhm,
And that's my plan.
okay,
So
good.
hopefully, if not the end of this week, it'll be the beginning of next week.
Mhm. Sounds good.
They okay with that, Chuck, as far as you know, or not grumbling about it, or?
I got a little bit.
Yeah, there was a little grumbling about it, but I think they will be.
Yeah.
Always
just
something new.
paperwork.
Yeah, it's a
so-
change.
Change,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
problem.
Yeah.
There's one that was complaining that he says he's computer illiterate, and I can relate to that, so.
And
Yeah.
I even thought about a time clock, but if I can get them to do this system, it tells what roads they worked on and what, you know, it nails it down. And that way he can communicate with Greg or Chuck at the end of the day and say, you know, I didn't finish this job, or I have to go back to this in the morning. It's just a wrap up. It's 5
Well,
minutes at the
it'd
end
be a
of the
lot
day.
easier for you guys too, when you get ready to do your budget and that stuff, I would
Right.
think.
Yeah.
You can look back and say, we spent this much time
Mhm.
on this road, and this
Or how
road
much-
next year is we're gonna do it, it's compatible.
Hauling sand, how many days,
Right.
it just nails it down to,
Yeah, we always wondered on that, what it costs us to haul sand.
Right.
We really don't
Really know.
have any idea of a number. Yeah.
So if we nail it down to we spent this much time grading on this road, or, you know, it simplifies it.
Right.
How we can function better, whether we leave the grader there, or whether there's ways to look around it to save money, to
Right.
be wise about it, so. Just that extra 10 minutes at the end of the day and 5 minutes of punching in, yeah.
So Just gotta get them to do it.
Yep, it's just a little extra responsibility and it's benefiting the town.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Ultimately,
benefiting them too.
Yeah.
it is.
I mean, it may not seem it right now, but really it is gonna benefit them.
Is there any way we can provide them with an easier format that they could get on that would make it more simplified for them?
That's why I'm bringing Skip with me.
Bring a skip down for that, yeah.
And even if they need to come by the office with their tablet at the end of the day, literally all you need, because it's just checking boxes off and what you did, and it's a click with a mouse. And
Yeah,
so it's just repetitive. You do it every day.
it's just something different.
A week,
Yeah,
you get into it, it's done.
yeah. The worst it would be in the winter when they're running odd hours. But
But write it down, and then when you do get a chance to, when you come back in, just fill it in.
Yeah,
But yeah, wintertime is gonna be the really,
Yeah, it's long days and,
right.
Well, I can see that Greg and I were talking about, and I can see his point. You get there at 3:30, the last thing you think about is logging on the computer, punching in, and you get a foot of snow staring at you.
yeah,
And, you know, I agree with him 100%. I wouldn't do it either.
right.
I'd go to work.
yeah. Think about it later.
Yeah.
Get there at 3:30 and
Yeah,
you can do it at the end of the day.
yeah.
That's because he has to put his time sheet in anyways, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Randy, one thing that we talked about at the last select board meeting is, exploring, a little bit more, with the intention of, having a third full-time person. So, and we won't do anything, it'll be, a series of discussions, but we would like to get a sense of, how it would increase the highway budget as far as, insurance, et cetera.
It's gonna depend if it's just them, if it's a family, it's gonna
Right.
depend on, and same thing with the fringes. Dental, if it's for two, if it's for one,
Yeah,
it's,
well,
it's,
if you
I
could
thought
kind
about
of,
those options.
what's that?
I thought about those options.
Right, I
are
had,
we gonna start them off for vacation? Is there gonna be somebody who's trained at, like, Grizz, and they request 3 weeks instead of starting off with, it's gonna depend, but I can throw numbers at you.
yeah, if you could come up with a, we wouldn't, it really wouldn't happen probably until after, till the beginning of the fiscal year 2022 year. But we would, we would plan for it when we start creating the budget at the end of this year. So there's no rush, but it would be good to have those figures and maybe start discussing it before we're actually working on the budget to, okay, so
Yeah.
just
Know
a
what
heads
we've
up.
got to increase it by, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else at all? Any questions for the town treasurer? All right, okay. Town clerk's report.
Hello.
Hello.
I've been mostly, 90% of my time lately has been on the absentee ballot process. I get a card, the Secretary of State sent a card to everybody on the checklist. They mailed me the card. I have to input it into the system. We have to make up, Laura's been helping me make up the ballot envelopes, which involve 2 ballot envelopes, 1 return envelope, plus the envelope that we mail it in, and that is all postage paid, plus 3 ballots, plus an instruction sheet. So we make those up ahead of time. And anyways, that's a process. We've done 199 as of today, which is probably about what we usually get for a whole
A primary.
voting in a primary, in an
Yeah.
August primary. And I'd like to ask if you could find a different place to hold your next meeting, because it's going to be the night before the primary. And I'd like to have everything set up so that I don't have to be here till midnight and then get up at 6 in the morning and be here.
How about if we just have a different time that we meet? Because this really is about the only place, if we're going to meet in a physical
You could
setting.
do a different, you could do like Wednesday night maybe.
Right.
Because what,
Doesn't matter to me, yeah.
So let's see, August 11th is the primary, that's Tuesday, so it'll be
That's
August 10th. So if we met on the 12th, okay, does that sound,
So that would be,
is there any conflict for you, Leaf, in running the, okay.
Is that Tuesday night?
That would be a Wednesday night. Tuesday night, they'd still be voting. Some,
Fire department would be one tight,
yeah, that would be Wednesday night.
yeah.
Be Wednesday night. Let me write that down somewhere.
yeah, sometimes the fire department, and their exercises on voting night makes a conflict because of the noise. You know, they're out there running their trucks and running their pumps and we're in here trying to count votes, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was dreading having to have a meeting in this kind of weather, but here we are, and with our masks on, so I appreciate you bearing through that. Okay.
So, the lift might finally need to be repaired. We talked about this during budget time, and it's not working again. And last time we were told there were a couple of expensive things that probably needed to be replaced, but we'd wait as long as we could. And you had decided, instead of budgeting for that, you had decided to take it out of the building restoration fund.
Yeah, we could do that.
So we'll just have to deal with that.
Okay.
I wonder,
Do you have a rough idea of how much that's going to cost?
it was thousands of dollars.
Thousands?
I don't
of
think it
dollars?
wasn't like 10, but it was probably 4 or 5, something like that.
Okay. Well, how much do we have left in that fund, Brandy? Actually, I think it's on the sheet here. Yeah, I just saw, I was looking at those.
$7,964.91.
Okay, that'll probably pretty much clean it up. So we need to start putting a yearly amount into that fund, I think. We've been,
Again, yeah.
That was the original intention, but it never happened from the
Right.
first year, so.
yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, Brian, I'm wondering how serious you were about trying to get some stream restoration done across the road here.
I don't know, I'd love to see some stream restoration done. Can we find some money somewheres, or?
That would be the issue. How much and where would it come from?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to go over it with Chuck and look it over and see if you can throw an estimate at us, a ballpark or something, or?
Does the town road crew do that kind of work?
Yeah, I think that might be on the,
Well, we may take you up on that. I don't know, how the treasure town road crew's got probably
Yeah.
all the
Yeah,
methods.
it's really something for a professional.
yeah, it would be, we should put it out to contract.
Well, Peter Phelps had mentioned a guy from Cabot who was really good at that, and I wonder if I should at least call him and at least get like a rough estimate. If it's like
That would be good.
$20,000-$30,000, you might say it's not worth it. The stream restoration, Pat Ross didn't seem to think it was a problem the way it was.
Right. And would we, if we were to do some restoration work, which I would love to see, I mean, it looks kind of,
Yeah.
it doesn't look so great now that it's all exposed.
I think it looks great.
You think it looks great the way it is? I mean,
Compared to what it was.
And the bottleneck is still there. I mean, the building over it is gone,
Yeah,
but the narrowing of the stream is still there. Do you think, I mean, Pat Ross did have a suggestion on what to do there, and is that what you're thinking would happen, if we did, like if this guy did come, we could explain to him what we were thinking of having,
Well,
what
I
to
don't
do
think
there?
we'd be telling him what we're thinking about.
Okay.
I don't think we know, at least I don't know.
Well, I remember what Patrick Ross told us was basically putting in granite blocks and having them steps so that it
Well-
widens out as it gets higher up, which is another way of helping to control flooding, is that there's a great, the higher the water gets, the more surface area there is, rather than, just straight. up and down. Of course, then it crosses the road and it is straight on that side, but,
Kinda.
yeah, it's actually sort of leaning a
It's
bit.
kinda leaning. Now, did he
Um,
say there was some money in the Myers Fund that was available, or? No,
No, I didn't do that.
okay.
I would imagine it would be well, we should find out, but it's gonna be,
I'll make a call.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
our engineer that we didn't use very much, he did give us one price and it was,
And you know, I know we kind of scoffed at another FEMA grant, but there's no, there's no rush now to fix that. And the original grant was to restore the stream to help prevent flooding, and it kind of, they sort of let that part go, but that was the whole, that's what the FEMA grant was for. So, it would take a number of years, and, but if that's the only way that we can do it. Yes, Mike?
At what point do you put that out to bid?
When we're ready to do the work. Yeah.
So you're gonna come up with a design, obviously, and
Yeah, we would have, there would be, a design, it wouldn't, I don't think it would,
yeah, we had an estimate for design from our engineer also.
Yeah, yeah.
It would have to start over.
so first of all, if we were to go to the FEMA route, we would apply for the grant first, and we wouldn't do anything until we were awarded the grant. And then we would, have a designer, we would probably put that out for bid too, and have somebody come up with a design, and then use that to submit, in an RFP for the actual work to a contractor.
if you get a grant, and I don't know the answer to the question, if you get a grant and it's not per se Woodbury tax generated revenue,
Right.
do you have to put that out to bid if it's a grant?
Yes,
Okay.
The requirement is that the town follow its own procurement practices.
right.
In which case, anything over $8,000 has to go out to bid.
I mean, the beauty of a grant is that most of the money, most of the expenses paid for, let's say it was a FEMA grant, for removal of the store and the restoration of the area, FEMA paid 75% of it and the town had to come up with a 25% match. The downside is that you wait forever. It's a, federal bureaucracy, so, I mean, you know how long it took for that part, and without it, the town we would either have to have whatever the expense was, we would have to vote at it at a town meeting, and it would be totally a town expense, and it would probably be fairly significant. And I don't know if we could look for other grants that might not be federal, but the way the state budget is right now, I don't think there's going to be too much for grants. I mean, we had applied for a grant for the work over here on the Valley Lake Road, and we haven't heard a word about it. And we were supposed to hear back in early May. So
Was that for the school?
yeah, for the school parking lot, for that whole
They were
area.
up here doing some surveying today.
Yeah, that's for the surveying is for that stormwater mitigation projects that we did get a grant for the design work. So that's what that's about. And we have the fellow from Ruggles in St. J was supposed to be coming up with a kind of a design and some, work for actually doing
Yeah,
preliminary work on the
That's
road.
what I thought when we were talking about them blocks a month ago.
Yeah, I don't
I
know
thought it
where,
was coming right along, but
yeah.
obviously I guess it's not.
Well, I don't know what's happening with that. I mean, we met with that person back in April, and I don't know, Paul has been pretty much riding shotgun on that, so we'll have to, next meeting, we'll ask him what's going on with that, because it would be good for you to have that information before you start doing any work
Yeah.
there,
Well, I
too.
was looking at it today with the guy that was doing the survey. And I think at some point, the select board and I and anybody else that's interested should meet over there, because if that ditch is opened up down the backside of that ball field and take all the water off that parking lot and put it that way, it would eliminate 99% of your problem you got right now.
Okay.
To send it the other way towards the wetland.
Sit into the
Yeah,
wetland.
and that's what they're trying to do, is get it further, to run further through the grass before it
Okay,
gets to the
great.
wetlands, rather than coming around this corner and dumping right in.
Great.
And
Yeah,
there's some things over there we could do that wouldn't cost a lot, that would make a big difference.
okay.
That's good.
Yeah, and that's one nice thing about, you know, having Du Bois and King do this, because they're kind of on the ground. They have a real, it's not, you know, computer plans, it's on the ground
Right.
experience. So I'm really hoping that and they're aware that the town, you know, doesn't have a lot of money, and so I'd be very curious to see what they come up with these full designs. And we'll have a chance to give town input on that. The plan is that they will come up with what's called a 60% design. There's already been a 30% design done by the initial study. They'll come up with a 60% design which will then be presented to the town, and any town resident can come and hear, learn what what their plans are and give input. And then they go back and, you know, refine the plans. So we should come up with something that we want by the end.
That would make a big difference. If
Yeah.
that water went that way,
Yeah.
rather than coming this way.
Yeah. And the whole purpose of this, of course, it's not so much flooding, it's more erosion and phosphorus runoff and stuff like that. That's what all this is all about. But if at the same point we can help keep, you know, water from washing out the road down here at the bottom of Valley Lake Road, that's a plus too. So.
Yeah, that would be fairly easy to do if
Yeah.
if you sent the water the other way.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Okay. Anything else, Diana?
Yeah, I do have a couple more things.
I don't know how we got off on that
The
tangent.
landscaping over here, we've got all our money, but we don't have FEMA's final approval yet, because they can't manage to drag themselves up here to look at an empty lot, which I can understand.
Yeah.
They talked about doing a virtual site visit, but they haven't done that. So anyways, they told me not to do any landscaping, and Russell and I got wires crossed. I told him it was okay to buy the plants, but I didn't tell him it was okay to put them in. But, you know, I don't think we're gonna be in a whole lot of trouble.
Did he put plants in? I mean, I've noticed the fence, but I haven't.
He put the hedgerow along the driveway,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
which is what Jacob wanted. I gave him a choice. We could either do, you know, a fence with some bushes along there, or the hedges like are on the north side of his house, and he preferred the hedges.
Yeah. Okay.
Why did he get put so close to the driveway?
What?
Why did they get put so close to the driveway?
How close is it? I haven't looked.
Boundary line, I believe.
Well, it may be, but there's no way that the hedges are ever gonna look good after you pass through there all the
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I can't.
As close as those cedars are in his driveway,
Yeah.
when he plows through there all there, them hedges are never gonna look good.
Well, Russell looked at that, and, you know, the town's property goes right up to the side of his house, and then there's a right-of-way between the two buildings, one that's no longer there.
Right.
That's supposedly for the use of both parties. So, yeah, we talked about that. I'm surprised if he put it too close. Because he did talk about maybe there would need to be a snow fence.
Yeah.
And also, we stopped the trees at the back of the house, so he'll have a place to put the snow
Right.
when it's back
But
there.
as close as them are, it's still gonna plow snow into them. They're gonna
Really?
freeze and
Okay,
they're never gonna look good.
I'm surprised at that.
Yeah, me too.
Because we did consider that.
Should've been 10 or 15 feet from.
Well, it just couldn't be that far because it's not, you know, it's not his property. It's our property, but we should, yeah,
But I don't
we
see
did
what
talk.
difference it would have made whose property it was, as long as your trees stay looking good.
We
Okay.
may end up moving them at some time then.
Yeah,
Well,
If you're gonna move them, you should do it now.
should do it now before they get seeded in.
Yeah, to get their roots set, makes it harder.
Because
well, they're not gonna be 10 feet away. I mean, we're not gonna give him another whole
we ain't
swath
doing
of
anything,
land.
you just have to mow the other side.
Yeah, it's not a boundary line thing, it's just, what's gonna save the
Common
trees.
sense thing about whether or not you can save trees.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's more a visual barrier than anything else. I think, yeah.
yeah, we should stop over and take a look at it and see what we can
Uh-huh, yeah.
do someday. Meet Chuck down here, and I'm not sure when Paul will be back.
I don't know, yeah.
So we talked about also doing some kind of a specimen tree right in the middle, and we talked about either doing like a clump of 3 birches or some kind of maple, and we kept maple in the other park, so I thought maybe 3 birches would be nice.
Mm-hmm, sure. What-
Anybody else have an idea?
Birches wouldn't last for well, probably 30 or 40 years, I guess. None of us would worry about it. How about a yellow birch?
Yeah, that.
They would last
point, I
longer.
don't know. And one more thing, I'm just giving
Okay.
you my 7-month notice. I'm not gonna finish the last term of my sentence, my term, the
Okay.
last year of my term.
Mhm, okay,
So between now and either the end of December or town meeting, I need to start looking for a new town clerk.
So you're gonna retire at town meeting this year?
Well, yeah, it depends. You know, there's ways of doing it. Don't want to just leave it till town meeting and get somebody who's not appropriate, who can't be trained to do this, to learn these million different things that they have to learn. But the other option is I could retire at the end of December and then you'd have to appoint someone to serve through town meeting, which would give a person a little more of a leg up, but then that new person would right off have to start with a town report, so that's another big chunk of the year. So anyways, just start thinking about that.
would you consider staying on to get through the town report and then, but have somebody training or
Yeah, I
working
would
with you?
consider working with somebody,
Because that is a major task.
yeah. I would consider and staying on to, to train somebody, maybe working a day or so a week. Because-
So what would be a good time? I mean, I'm just trying to think of how to advertise or how to, to get someone started. First of all, find somebody who would be interested.
Well, for somebody who would be interested in an 18-hour-a-week job, someone who has experience in government and familiarity with office equipment and office, services, office products.
Does that person have to be a town resident?
Yes,
They do, okay.
yeah,
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah.
That's, yeah, okay.
And somebody who can do a lot of detail work, serve the public. The idea of training somebody just makes my head hurt.
Yeah.
There's so many things to
Well,
Should just
learn.
start throwing something out on the front porch forum for people?
Yeah, I've thought about that.
Yeah. See if
yeah, I
can
think
get-
we should start
Start
the
getting
sooner as
people
opposed to
interested.
later.
And
So,
get
and
some-
there's always gonna be a chance, if somebody makes a commitment, they want this job and they're willing to, come in a day or two a week for 3 months and at town meeting, there's always a chance.
Yeah.
But
Right.
we know that, right, Mike? Things happen.
Yeah, Mike.
So if you get multiple applicants, do you train the number of applicants, or do you,
No,
Pick somebody.
we would have to pick someone.
Yeah, they wouldn't be really applicants.
Yeah, they wouldn't be
They
able
would
to.
be people who show an interest and,
I mean, I could see this, and I don't know if this is the correct, I have no idea how this is supposed to be done, but, I would think, if we let people know that Diana's planning on retiring and that we're looking for someone to take her place, and we had 2 or 3 or more people in town that were interested, maybe the select board would just talk to them or have them come to a select board meeting and then,
I think it would be better to do that.
and then we would,
There's no requirement that it be done in public.
choose someone to appoint. And I don't know if that's we'd have to check with VLCT, I think, to find out how we're supposed to do this. I don't have a clue. I've never
Yeah.
had to do
But
this
we might be
before.
able to appoint them until town meeting when they would have to go before the residents.
Right, what they would do, is
It
your,
could also be-
is your
it could also-
your 3-year term, is it up this year?
No, there's
No,
one
so
more
there'd
year.
be, so basically we would be appointing someone to fill out the
Yeah.
rest of Diana's term.
Yeah,
But if I stay until town meeting day, then it would just be the elected person. But in the meantime, I could appoint someone as a second assistant town clerk to maybe come in one day a week.
Let
But, you
me
know, so
check
there are
with,
different options. I don't think we
Yeah.
need the VLCT
Okay.
to help us, but
well, I want to make sure that we don't do it in a way that is going to ruffle
I knew I shouldn't.
feathers.
I guess my question would be, who picks that person? Is it the select?
I don't know. We have to find that out.
Yeah.
We have to find that out.
Whoever gets appointed or comes in for training or whatever, they're still gonna have to be elected at town meeting.
Right.
Yeah, I don't expect.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know whether we appoint someone to finish your term or whether it would be just until town meeting and then,
Right.
and then they would come up for
It's,
election.
Two options.
Yeah,
the
usually,
LCT could tell you that pretty easy probably.
right, yeah. Yeah, so,
I'd be likely to stay until town meeting, the way
Okay.
it is now.
of course, the other thing is that we would probably, while this person is being trained, we would have to be offering them some kind of financial compensation, which we don't have in the budget, but we'll worry about that, I guess, when it happens. Okay. Thanks for letting us know. And, anything else, Diana?
No,
No? Okay. So, what time is it? I have no idea.
7:37.
Okay. So I'd like to just briefly go over what are the possibilities for the duties for town constable. And then briefly, I'd just like to say about the junk ordinance. My thinking at the moment is to pretty much go with the VLCT model and maybe with also looking at the Wolcott junk ordinance, which basically is the VLCT model with a couple of changes. One is the fine rate is a little bit higher, and they also added another category for junk where people might put out stuff for free, and then some things get taken, and then the rest of it sits on the side of the road for 3 or 4 months, which is sort of happening on Cranberry Meadow Road right at the moment.
Yeah.
But we had talked about having and I'm talking about the junk ordinance now, just briefly. I don't want to really spend a lot of time on it. But we had planned on coming up with a draft junk ordinance and then having a town hearing
Okay.
for people to review it and offer suggestions or just opinions about whether, because I have a feeling that there's a difference of opinion about whether we really need this or not. And I'm not totally convinced that we do. So that's kind of the process. I think what we would need to try to figure out, and I can put together a draft. We had suggested that Skip Marcassani and Sean Pentis do that, but it's pretty easy. It's already written, basically. And we just need to figure out how we're going to do that, whether we would have a hearing in a physical setting that would allow for people to come. The town hall could be too small if we have,
Yeah.
so whether we could use the school, or whether we could do this through a Survey Monkey kind of thing and, post it on Front Porch Forum and the website and have people make comments, and then maybe have a physical public hearing. We'll have to figure out how we're going to do the process, but
Yeah. Seemed like there was once upon a time way back that we enacted a junk permit or ordinance in this town. Have we tried to find what we had done in the past, or?
I wasn't aware that there was ever such a thing.
I'm pretty sure that one has been done before. A long time ago, yeah.
You want to dig around in the boxes in the vault and find it?
we have an ordinance binder,
Oh, okay.
so,
Well,
you know,
maybe
We
we
should
should
have to
look.
look through that then, yeah.
look in there.
Yeah, I would say back in What do you think, Chuck? Late 70s? 70s?
In the 70s,
Mid
72
70s?
to 76, around there.
Somewhere in that range. Seems like there was something. Maybe Vale
Yeah.
Beach was a part of it.
Probably the last
Kenny
time,
King and Bill Leach both, I believe.
Yeah.
probably about the last time they updated the zoning. Which would have been in the mid-70s.
Probably, yeah. You're probably right.
I know that they've got something somewhere, but wherever.
They did have.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, we'll look and see what we can find, but
Yeah.
see,
I don't think I've got records in my big box upstairs going back
Okay.
that far, but
all right. I know,
Hopefully not, right?
hopefully not. Yeah.
so, maybe we could, that could be a task for Laura.
Yes.
She's so willing. Yeah.
I think they are all
Yeah.
signed and sealed.
So, there was a list that Laura put together of different responsibilities that a town constable can have, and the list that she came up with would be for a person who hasn't the enforcement training and a person that doesn't. And in a correspondence that Laura had with Garrett Baxter, the chief lawyer at VLCT, he has a listing of functions of a constable that without law enforcement training. And I think we're pretty much in agreement, and this could be town discussion too at some point, of that we would prefer a constable that doesn't have law enforcement training.
Yeah.
Some towns, and it's sort of suggested that towns, if they specifically do not want a constable that has law enforcement training, that often that's voted on at town meeting as a specific thing that gets, because there have been trials that some towns have had in the past with a constable that does have law enforcement training. And
Now, what we've dealt with in South Woodbury over the last month or so, would that require somebody who has training, or would somebody who doesn't have training go in there?
it would require, if a constable is trying to enforce an ordinance or levy a fine or whatever, they do need some type of training,
Yeah.
enforcement training, according to Garrett Baxter.
So I was just thinking
So-
about, those.
Yeah, I know what,
Yeah.
yeah. That would definitely require someone with law enforcement training.
Yeah, so we're gonna have
Or
to,
even to write a ticket, if the ordinance if we had an ordinance that was written in such a way that it could be enforced through the municipal court, the municipal bureau,
Okay, well,
could that?
I could read to you, because Laura asked this question of Garrett Baxter, and I can read you his response. So Laura asked, does a civil municipal ordinance enforcement require law enforcement training? And Garrett answered, it depends on the ordinance and what it regulates, which oftentimes will dictate its method and manner of enforcement. The enforcement of some civil municipal ordinances is a traditional law enforcement activity. The primary example of this is the enforcement of civil municipal traffic ordinances, which is performed exclusively by law enforcement officers. No one would expect that a constable, for example, who lacks law enforcement authority could lawfully issue a ticket for violation of a municipal traffic ordinance. But there are other municipal civil ordinances, such as open container ordinances, noise ordinances, solid waste ordinances, which is pretty much a junk ordinance, and animal control ordinances, the enforcement of which could also be considered the exercise of law enforcement authority. That's because the enforcement of these ordinances may involve investigation of illegal activity, temporary detention and questioning of suspects, de facto arrests, and the personal issuance of a citation, which would be the fine, all of which have traditional law enforcement elements. And then he goes on, the primary concern in such instances is that a constable and or town could be subject to civil liability for enforcement of one of these municipal ordinances if the constable has not received training in accordance with 20 VSA Section 2358. And I don't know what that state statute says, but the possibility of this legal liability may deter constables from enforcing municipal ordinances. As a result, many of these lower level quality of life offenses may not be enforced or may become the responsibility of paid police officers, the contracted sheriff, etc., which will make enforcement more expensive for the town. VLC's conservative advice, therefore, has been in the past that if a constable lacks law enforcement authority, that it's best that they aren't involved in ticketing, as, depending on the circumstances pointed out above, could be interpreted as unlawfully exercising law enforcement authority without the requisite training. And then one final statement on that. I would add, however, that if the enforcing officer's duties does not include these elements, that such risk would be severely mitigated. For example, I am not aware of any claim being brought against a zoning administrator for the unlawful exercise of law enforcement authority. So that's Garrett Baxter.
So it really limits what can be done by,
Well, according to Garrett, yes, it does. Yeah.
It's basically separating criminal from civil. I mean, that's the majority of the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you could have a constable that doesn't have any law enforcement training issue somebody a ticket for a violation of a zoning ordinance, which wouldn't require any law enforcement training, because you've spelled it out in the zoning regulations, if you will, and that's what you're dealing with.
yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not, Mike. Let me just reread that. So I guess, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, you know, somebody who's violated a solid waste ordinance being, first of all, detained in any way, or, you know, interrogated, other than just, you know, temporary detention and questioning of suspects. You know, I can't imagine that happening. Yeah, so I don't know. So I think, you know.
When you say that, interrogated and restricted, I mean, you're basically saying if they're restricted from any free movement, if they feel they're
Right.
under arrest, that's
Yeah,
a whole different
like
ballgame.
you
Yeah.
take them to the town office and lock them in the basement, or something like that. Yeah.
Bring a good spotlight on, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's just trying to answer that question because Laura did ask it of Garrett Baxter.
The other issue you have obviously is, I think now, the way we voted on this a number of years ago was the constable was appointed, not elected.
Exactly, and Diana was able to find the town meeting minutes.
That was back a number of
Yeah.
years. Like that.
Yeah, and that's, you know, from my point of view, that's good. I'm glad that the town did that. To me, it
Yes.
would be much better to appoint a constable than to elect one, because that way the select board has some control over
Can
the
vet their
constable.
It
qualifications.
was accountability.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They were appointed, they were accountable to
Yeah,
the select board.
yeah, yeah. So, and the town has done that, so we would definitely appoint a constable. So what I wanted to do is just briefly go over this list that Garrett provided, and the question is from a question that Laura asked: what functions could a constable provide without the law enforcement training? And Garrett's answer was there was a list of about 10 things. The service of civil or criminal process under 12 VSA 691, destruction of animals in accordance with another state statute, the killing of injured deer, provision of assistance to the health officer in the discharge of the health officer's duties, service as a criminal division of the Superior Court officer, I'm not quite sure what that is, removal of disorderly people from town meeting, or I suppose a select board meeting, Collection of taxes when no tax collector is elected, as provided, again, under a different state statute. A constable who is not prohibited from exercising law enforcement authority under subsection of, do I want to read this? No, that doesn't, that wouldn't really apply. A municipal legislative body may vote to allow a constable elected or appointed in another municipality to exercise law enforcement authority in its municipality. The constable is not prohibited from exercising law enforcement authority, again, under another state statute that I don't know. So I'm not really sure what he's referring to. Okay, and again, other state statutes. So I guess it's going to take a little bit of research for these different statutes, which I think is also in the information that Laura gathered.
If I can, one of the things that I haven't heard mentioned that you really want to give some serious consideration to is if he is going to be or not going to be armed. I haven't heard anything dealing with that.
Oh, well, there was no way that a person would be armed if they didn't have...
That has to be known.
Yeah. Is there any other thoughts that you have? As far... Yeah. So I think, what we need to do is come up with what we would like a town constable to do, and it looks like we better research some state statute to see just what is possible.
Well, what would you like to do as a constable?
Well, it's all going to come down to what the requirements are, what the town's expecting from that position. I mean,
They haven't had a constable forever, so they're really not expecting anything.
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
But if you're looking for the
what's been
position,
mentioned, civil things are obviously not a problem.
Like assisting a health officer if they have to go do an inspection, or, our animal control officer, if he's having troubles or with just like a second body as a zoning administrator also, yeah.
so you could go out on certain little things like that. So it's a pretty
Right.
small window, but
Yeah, it would be basically, if there was a concern about
backup.
backup or a violation of a ordinance, and the person would just like a second person there when they're, going to talk to the person about it.
In this day and age, it should be two people when they go in.
Yeah, just so there's two sets of ears and memories. Yeah, I agree. You're right.
How about welfare checks?
I'll take one.
What? You're okay?
He'll take one.
I'll take one.
Yeah. So I guess what we need to do is,
The other thing you have to be cognizant of too is depending upon what the responsibilities of your constable are. If you try to saddle them with too much, and then now you call Department of Public Safety and you say you got a problem, then they're going to say give it to your constable. And if you avoid that at the very beginning, everybody would be a lot better off.
what we would like to do is have something written up so that it doesn't get loaded that way, and so there's understanding on both sides and by the community of just what this person would be doing. Laura, when you spoke with Wilson Hughes, did he, I know I asked Denise Wheeler if the Callis had any kind of written, like, I'll call it a job description for lack of a better word, but she said that they didn't. Did Wilson, did you ask him about what exactly he does for the town of Callis?
Yeah, I
And-
put it all in that.
Okay, I haven't read that yet, but, okay, so I could look at that. So.
The other thing is Trevor Thorpe does the constable stuff for VLCT. He said that if we ever wanted him to come to a meeting and answer questions, he's more than happy to. So if you wanted to schedule something.
Let's do that.
Because then maybe he could really iron out some of these questions.
Yeah. Trevor Thorpe?
Yours or VLCT?
I believe that's the name. It might be Trevor, it might be a
I
different
think
last name.
he works for the the state, federal, credit union, state credit union.
It's,
He,
I know
is
his
that,
name's
is that the same Trevor Thorpe that's our CV fiber rep?
It might be a different last
Yeah.
name. Trevor something.
Trevor something. I know you have it in the.
It's in there.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Let's try to have that happen.
Yeah,
So maybe for the next meeting.
he might be able to give us, you know, just a lot more of what to expect, or
Yeah.
yes or no, or, yeah.
Yeah.
Because what we ran into years ago with the constable was, they might get called out for something and whatever, and Middlesex said they can't guarantee that they can back you up.
Right.
They said, bottom line, you know, we're 30, 40 miles away. We cannot guarantee backup. They said it's not safe for a constable.
Yeah. And when we were exploring the different policing options for Woodbury,
Yeah,
we definitely decided that we wouldn't want a constable with law enforcement, just because of the communication issues, if they were
yeah.
out somewhere.
No radios.
No, I mean, with all our dead spaces for,
Yeah, it really makes it tough
Yeah.
to do. You really gotta manage what you do so that you're not someplace where you either can't make a phone call. I don't know, this is a really tough position to fill
right,
when your hands are being tied.
right,
Yeah.
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 So I have a feeling, Gary, this will be a somewhat slow process. I don't have a lot of time to work on this in the summer, but I can chip away at it. Laura has definitely collected a lot of good resources for us. Do you have all of this digitally? Could you print out another copy so that Gary could have it? Because
But she can email it easier,
yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Yep.
And if I give you another good source to find out how the state law enforcement deals with it, if you were to get a hold of the Vermont Criminal Justice Training Council, and they would give you some information as to what the requirements are.
Yeah, I've looked at their website, and Laura has too. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how the Callis guy deals with, I don't know, would he meet with us?
He might be willing to do that. He's pretty limited. I mean, he doesn't have law enforcement training.
Right, so it'd be the same, similar
Yeah.
to this, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like
maybe
to
he
have
would.
somebody that's doing it. Yeah, say, yeah, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't.
Yep,
What can you do, you know? And
yeah,
yeah, because that would help a little bit.
yeah, it would help. Yeah, that would be good to have.
You're gonna have to look at a bunch of little things, like, do you want your constable to be able to carry handcuffs, even though he doesn't have law enforcement training? Because if you do, now you're saying you want him to have the ability to restrict somebody's movement.
Yeah.
So there's little things like that that you have to.
Yeah, I think right from the get-go, we've been pretty clear that and Gary does not want to do this either, we are not really looking for someone with law enforcement capabilities.
Not gonna do any takedowns?
So that's not the intention here, it's more,
Yeah, it's a tough position to fill.
yeah. Well, we
That
have,
being said, you also take away some of his ability to protect himself as well. So
well,
it's a slim line here.
yeah. And, that's one of the reasons that I called the state police and Ryan McCall in this situation that you're involved in, because, I was aware of, sending our zoning administrator there to deal with that, what would probably happen to him. And the state police confirmed that. So that's part of the whole kind of,
Has that
what
property
happened?
changed hands yet, Diane?
Yes, it has.
It
The
has.
very next day, the deed came into the town office.
So it's owned by Marie?
Tanya Daigle is the name.
Tanya is the,
Yeah,
the
so
owner.
we have an address to send the warning letter to now.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be handy.
Well, I don't know if we do or not.
Yeah.
At least we know who owns it now. But, so we'll chip away at this, and get it done sometime. But I think
We
having
hope.
this Trevor person, maybe we'll try to have him come at our next meeting.
All his information's in there, so.
Yeah, if he'd come
I'll
in,
find
that
out.
would be super, because,
Yeah.
like I said, he's doing the exact thing that you're looking to do, so.
Yep, and maybe Wilson Hughes would be, would be willing to come for a meeting too.
Oh, Wilson's a Callis guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's a Callis guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that would help a lot.
Okay. So I had just one quick update. Any other concern or questions or discussion about the town constable for
One
tonight?
of the things, like if he uses his own vehicle, he's gonna have a rise of his own insurance costs, and
Right.
little things like that have to be taken into
Yeah,
consideration.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give an update on the Old Quarry Road spur. Our town lawyer, Michael Tarrant, will be meeting in Washington County Superior Court with the judge and either Mr. Parker or his lawyer or both to begin. They're basically, it's a kind of a nuts and bolts meeting where there's just a schedule is discussed and, you know, what's going to happen when. Michael said that no one from the select board needed to be there. It's just basically starting the process for the appeal process, you know,
Wow.
court hearing.
Didn't
So
think
August 3rd is
Yeah.
the first meeting. And he'll give me an update on what happens then.
After that, yeah.
Yeah, and then
So what is the appeal?
he's appealing the town's, first of all, the amount that we offered him for the spur. And he's also appealing our, the necessity clause that we presented for the reason why the town needs that spur as a town highway.
So that's that little crossover road
No, I
there.
know.
Yeah,
that's
Chuck,
what
Chuck,
it's
knows-
like.
yeah, Chuck knows all about it. Yeah, so he's appealing whether the town needs that as a town road, and he's also appealing, we offered him $2,500, and he had requested $5,000, so he's appealing the amount that we, in our offer, for it. And I'm sure you have thoughts on it, but,
Oh, I know,
so,
I guarantee you, one day I'm sure that mess right out.
yeah, well, so anyway, that's what's happening. You know,
You'd be
with that.
looking for an access permit for a driveway.
Doesn't have one yet?
No, when that road comes in, because I put the road right back where it was.
Aha, yeah, yeah. Well, he owns that piece of property now too.
How can that be?
He bought that whole chunk of land from
Yeah, but that's still town
Ainsworth.
road.
Not really in the records, it isn't. We couldn't find anything in the records that stated that as town road, unless we wanted to use a squatter's rights kind of thing. I mean, it was
You can
town.
kind of see where it was a road, but we
Yeah,
can't
but
find it in the
there's
records.
nothing in the town records that says,
Really?
yeah, yep,
It does something.
yeah. Well, I think it
I've
was,
been there a lot longer than I've been there.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
probably just a verbal agreement back in the old days and never really officially set up that way, so.
Huh.
Yeah. And it was Dennis, is it Dennis Ainsworth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Dennis Ainsworth that raised that issue back, well, before the present spur was built, Coleman had come to the town suggesting that they change the access to the Cabot Road. And Paul Gillis, the town lawyer, had done some research into that end of the road, and there was a big debate. There's a series of select board meeting minutes about whether even the Old Quarry Road was a town road or not. There's nothing in the old records that states that the road was ever officially laid out. So, yeah, so,
Leave it cold.
yeah, so we'll see what happens, I guess, but it's starting to happen, and it's
Starting to happen, yeah.
still will be probably a year or two before, I don't know when I guess we'll know after this first meeting, just what kind of schedule they're setting and when because as far as I know, there really isn't much happening in the courts right at the moment.
No.
So,
Yeah, maybe we'll find out more about what he actually wants.
Right.
Maybe he wants a little
Well,
more money or, who knows, but.
Yeah, yeah.
Jefferson.
So, anything else? That's pretty much it on the agenda. I'll make a motion to, actually, the chair cannot make a motion, so,
Well, I'll make
It's
the
up to you.
motion then
Okay.
to adjourn.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're done.